Hey guys, Zombie here, and today I have a quick video on the yet-to-be implemented American heavy tanks like the M60 and all the other tanks that are going to be added pretty soon. There's a couple snapshots I've seen, I've been plugging it so much now, but the Blitz post Discord has been sending a lot of pictures, and they're actually fairly interesting tanks, and I'm very excited to see them. Anyways, this video is specifically going to be about the tier 10 in that line, the M60. So it was immediately no surprise that this tank was going to be good, as the turret shape is pretty odd and seems like it would be nearly impenetrable to even the best premium rounds in the game just due to the shape of it. Although there are some small cupolas on the top of the turret, which are definitely weak spots. And if you try to hide those cupolas by angling your gun up because it has an oscillating turret, you're probably going to just be able to penetrate right under the gun, so that is a little bit awkward. But the hull looks like it had decent mobility and as well as having some decent armor, so I thought the tank was going to be pretty good, and assuming that, it has an oscillating turret, I kind of expected it to have an autoloader, and so it does. But that's the main discussion of today's video, so I didn't really expect it to be performing as well as it is. The main issue is mainly the 120mm T123E1 cannon option, as the 105 on it just really doesn't seem to be that unbalanced at all. It actually seems somewhat weak due to having, I'm pretty sure, the lowest alpha damage at tier 10 being only a measly 300 damage per shot. But back to the T123E1 gun, which I'll just call the 120. That gun is straight up broken, honestly. 450 damage per shot with 2 shots in the clip. Alright, so it doesn't seem too bad. The FV4005 even has 3 shots of 460, and the Foch 155 has 2 shots of 560 even. But here's where things get wrong, real quick. Okay, so the Foch has a 7.06 second intraclip, which was quite long, and it still feels balanced. It's fine. It's a pretty long intraclip. It still feels like an autoloader, but it's not necessarily like pumping shells out, Now the 4005 only has 3 seconds between the shots, which makes the gun extremely strong considering that it's 3 seconds intraclip to do 460 damage, but it's on an awful platform, let's be honest. The 4005 is pretty much the worst turret in the game. Now the M6, it only has a 1.4 second intraclip with the 120mm gun, so that means it has 450 alpha damage, and it shoots twice in 1.4 seconds doing 900 damage. So this definitely makes this one of the best, most flexible clippers aside from any of the auto reloaders. They're just going to be slightly more flexible just because they don't have to reload their entire clip. But the damage that this does is going to be absolutely nuts. So let's take into account the Jagdpanzer E100. 800 alpha damage per shot, no turret, weak armor, and of course it has extremely good pen even, being the joint highest in the game with the Object 268, and poor mobility. Now, it takes 17.04 seconds base to reload the gun on the Jagdpanzer E100 on average, and each time it shoots, it does 800 damage, as I said earlier. Now, the M6 does 900 damage on average with both shots in its clip, 100 more than the Jagdpanzer E100, and it takes only 16.78 seconds to reload the clip, and that's faster than the 17.04 reload that the Jagdpanzer E100 has. Now, even if we do take the intraclip into the equation, the M6 still only takes 18.18 seconds to reload its entire clip, giving it a whopping 2,971 damage per minute base. So that you can actually get that number even higher. You can break 3K. I think it gets up to about 3.1 thousand, something like that, a lot higher, which is absolutely amazing for a heavy tank, even an auto-loading heavy tank especially. So anyways, here's an example of the tank clipping out someone in game, and just watch. Yeah, I don't think there should be a tank in the game that should be able to do that. And if so, it should have a serious downside, I believe. Now, some of you may be thinking the 183 has 930 alpha. Well, yeah, that's true. Only 30 more than the clip potential of the M6, but I would take into account the downsides that the 183 has, and I would try to apply them to the M6 to balance it. But at the same time, the M6 doesn't share the deadly HESH rounds that the 183 has, and those rounds are the main reason why the 183's platform is so weak, being slow and having little armor or hit points. So real quick, I'm going to do a comparison between the M6, its tier 10 clipper heavy tank competition, the T57, the AMX50B, and the Krandvang. So the M6EO immediately has the highest DPM out of the comparison. It has over 1,000 more DPM than the Krandvang has, which is absolutely insane, considering that it's going to have probably the second best turret, only second to the Krandvang, because of course the Krandvang has an amazing turret, tier for tier, in general. It has a really good turret. There's no higher tiers. Everything's going to be having a very tough time penetrating that, and same thing with the M6. Now, it does have the worst penetration, but it does have the highest alpha, like I said, 450 average damage, and we're just going to completely ignore the 105 because I don't think it's really that good of a gun. Now, the gun handling, it is pretty much worst in class, except for the aim time. The Krandvang has slightly longer aim time than the M6 has, but the dispersion is 0.345, which is the same as the Krandvang actually. So if you I forget what it's called, but if you use the thing that makes your gun more accurate, it goes down to 0.328, which is really good, especially considering that you have such a high amount of alpha damage, DPM, and just the clip potential as a whole. It's pretty nuts. Now, 7 degrees of gun depression, it is worse, or the worst in the comparison. Very close to the T57's 8 degrees, but nowhere near the 10 or the 9 degrees that the Krandvang and the AMX50B have, respectively. Now, onto the mobility. It is actually not the slowest, and it has pretty decent mobility. It actually has better power to weight than the T57, but it does have the same top speed, so it can go 35 forwards, but like I said, it has a better power to weight, so it's going to be going 35 more often than the T57 would. And it can also go 15 in reversed, as opposed to the awful 12 kilometers per hour that the T57 can go. And that's something a lot of people don't really take into account whenever they're looking at tank stats, stuff like that. Reverse speed is extremely important. It's one of my favorite reasons why I like the WZ-112-2 or the MIL-1 or even the Krandvang with its 18 kilometers per hour reverse speed. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that the track traverse is actually 24 degrees per second, which is it's a lot worse than the T57, for example, with the 30 degrees. It is pretty close to the 50B's 25 and the Krandvang's 25. But 24 is still pretty bad, and it's not going to be super flexible and maneuverable. But considering that it is going to be faster than the T57, there is that. So it definitely does have mobility. It just won't be able to turn extremely effectively. Now lastly, on to the amount of hit points it has. 2,450 base, slightly less than the Krandvang, but also it's still the second most out of the comparison. So it's still a big chunk of hit points. And it actually has more hit points than the E5, but it does not have the sandbag armor, or at least anything else to increase its hit points other than improved assembly, so just take that into account. So yeah, we can hopefully expect Wargaming to calm this tank down, but perhaps I'm missing something or whatever, but this tank really seems like if it would enter the game in its current state, we would be looking at a brand new, like, super meta vehicle. And you know what? I am looking forward to this vehicle. Hopefully it doesn't break matchmaking, but it does look like it's definitely going to be a really fun vehicle to take out. So everybody save your free XP up, get ready for this tank to drop, and I will be making new videos on it and hopefully discussing ways to counter it, stuff like that, all of that stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it informative, and I will see you guys later. Bye bye.